What I saw that night, the UFO sighting that changed everything. It was the evening of December 12th, 2024. Around 6:05 p.m., the sun had long dipped behind the horizon, casting a twilight glow over the river. I stood near my balcony window, peering out across the water at the silhouette of the Newark skyline. The air was still, and everything seemed perfectly ordinary. Or so I thought. As I gazed out, something massive caught my eye. It was like a shadow moving across the skyline, a massive, black, boomerang-shaped object, about 50 feet wide. It moved silently, like a phantom, passing through the buildings of downtown Newark. I stood frozen, not fully comprehending what I was seeing. The object was unearthly, too smooth, too precise. What stunned me most was its lack of sound. There was no hum, no roar of engines, no vibrations in the air, just absolute silence. As it glided effortlessly across the sky, I noticed the lights. 3 bright white lights along its body and 2 red ones positioned at the back, almost like eyes that were watching the city below. It was a sight that should have felt impossible, but there it was, clear as day in front of me, as real as the buildings standing just yards away. The object continued its journey across the river, seemingly without a care in the world. It drifted between the tall structures, its lights reflecting off the glass windows, illuminating the darkness below. There was something mesmerizing about it, something that tugged at a deep, primal part of me. I felt a chill run down my spine. Could it really be what I thought it was? My heart raced as I watched it disappear into the distance. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't even a drone. It was something else entirely, something that didn't belong in our world. I stood there, rooted to the spot, struggling to make sense of what I had just witnessed. It wasn't just the sight of the object itself that shook me, but the very idea that something like that could be flying over our city silently, effortlessly. No one had seen it. No one would believe me. And as the minutes passed, a growing sense of disbelief and fear settled over me. Was I the only one who saw it? Were others in the city as stunned as I was? I wanted to scream, to tell someone, but the fear of sounding foolish kept me silent. What if no one believed me? What if this was something that I was never supposed to witness? The thought sent a cold shiver down my spine. It was as though I had seen something I wasn't meant to see, a truth that was buried so deep that even my own mind couldn't fully comprehend it. But here's the thing, I wasn't the first person to see something like this. I wasn't the first to feel the terror, the shock, the disbelief. I wasn't the first to be confronted with a sight so strange that it challenges everything we know to be true. There have been others before me, countless others who have seen similar things that the world, for the most part, refuses to acknowledge. And if you've ever wondered if UFO sightings are real, if the government is hiding the truth from us, then this story is for you. You see, for years, there have been whispers, quiet rumors, and accounts of sightings like mine, stories that go untold or dismissed as nonsense. But what if, just maybe, they are telling the truth? What if, for all these years, we've been looking the other way, blinded by our skepticism, afraid to confront the possibility that we are not alone? That's the real question, isn't it? What if we've all been lied to? In the weeks that followed my sighting, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The more I researched, the more I uncovered stories, reports, and accounts from people who had seen strange, unexplainable objects in the sky. They all shared the same feeling I had, mixed with fear. The fear of being wrong. The fear of being the only one who knows the truth. The fear of being labeled a fool or worse, a liar. But the truth, however uncomfortable it may be, demands to be heard. And if you've ever asked yourself, could UFOs be real? Could there be a cover-up? What is the government hiding from us? Then the answer is right in front of you. This isn't just some fantastical tale or conspiracy theory. This is the real world, where strange things happen all the time, things we can't explain, things we don't understand. And the more we resist these truths, the more we remain in the dark. I know it's hard to believe. I know it's hard to accept. After all, the idea of alien life beings from another planet, from another dimension, or even from our own future, is a concept that challenges everything we've been taught to believe. It's a terrifying idea because it forces us to confront our place in the universe. It makes us question everything: our reality, our existence, and even our own safety. But that's exactly why we need to face it. We need to ask the hard questions. What are we really dealing with here? What if the government has been hiding the truth about UFOs for decades? What if they've been aware of extraterrestrial life for much longer than we think? And more importantly, why is it that we, people, are the last to know? It's not just about UFOs anymore. It's about trust. It's about whether or not we can trust the very institutions that are supposed to protect us. If the government is hiding something as massive as the existence of UFOs, what else are they hiding? What other truths have been buried under layers of secrecy and deception? These are questions that demand answers. So, I urge you to stay with me, to listen, to keep an open mind. Because the truth is out there, and whether we're ready for it or not, it's coming. The more we ignore it, the more we suppress it, the more it will continue to fester and grow. This is bigger than just one sighting. This is a global mystery that affects us all. And together, we can uncover it. I want you to think about something. What if this is just the beginning? What if what I saw, what I experienced, is just a small piece of a much larger puzzle? A puzzle that could change the course of human history. I know it's hard to believe, but it's the kind of mystery that compels us to seek the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. And I promise you, this is just the first chapter of a story that will continue to unfold. If you've ever had doubts, if you've ever wondered if there's more to this world than meets the eye, now is the time to take action. Let's explore this mystery together, and let's demand the truth, because the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is always worth pursuing. Stay curious, stay open, and keep questioning. Who knows what we'll discover next? John Lear, a name that may not be familiar to many, holds a unique and significant place in the history of UFO lore, captivating the minds of those who dare to explore the unknown. Born into a family of aviation pioneers, his father, William P. Lear, being the inventor of the famous Learjet, John Lear's story isn't one of ordinary aviation success. No, his life took a thrilling and perplexing turn that led him into the very heart of UFO phenomena. What made Lear so fascinating, however, wasn't just his background as a highly skilled pilot with over 17 world speed records, or his numerous high-level certifications from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. It was his connections, his experiences, and the explosive information he began to share with the world that turned him into a controversial figure in both aviation and UFO circles. Now, imagine for a moment, you're sitting in your living room, perhaps with a cup of coffee in hand, and you're watching a documentary about UFOs. Suddenly, you hear the name, John Lear, what follows is an account of his life, his career as a test pilot for the CIA, and the strange, unsettling tales he began to tell about his experiences. As you listen, you begin to feel a sense of creeping discomfort. Could it be that the world you've always known is not quite what you thought? You feel yourself drawn in, unable to look away from the unfolding mystery. Lear's connections within the CIA and his first-hand knowledge of classified information about UFOs and extraterrestrial life make you wonder, could it be true? Or is it all part of an elaborate hoax? His compelling narrative forces you to ask the question, what is really going on behind the scenes? John Lear's journey into the world of UFOs began not with sightings or strange encounters, but with a conversation that would forever alter his perspective on reality. He met with personnel from the United States Air Force who had witnessed a UFO landing at Bentwaters Air Force Base in England. The sight of small extraterrestrial beings walking up to the wing commander sparked Lear's intense interest in UFOs, leading him down a path that would challenge everything he thought he knew. His early career was that of a highly respected aviator, someone who flew over 160 different types of aircraft in more than 50 countries. Yet, as his fascination with UFOs grew, so did his reputation as a man willing to dig deeper into matters that others either couldn't or wouldn't. As the years passed, Lear's involvement with UFOs became more than just curiosity. It became an obsession. His connections with high-level officials and insiders allowed him to access information that most people could only dream of. He began to publicly share his findings, claiming that the U.S. government had been in contact with extraterrestrials for decades, exchanging technology in return for silence on alien encounters. This revelation was not taken lightly. For many, the idea that the government had entered into a secret agreement with beings from another world was unthinkable. But for Lear, it was simply the truth that needed to be told. This was where things got interesting and unsettling. Lear wasn't just talking about UFO sightings or blurry videos from military bases. No, what Lear was alleging went far deeper than that. He claimed that the U.S. government was not only aware of extraterrestrial beings, but had made deals with them, trading human silence for alien technology. This, according to Lear, was the reason for many of the cover-ups surrounding UFOs, including the infamous Roswell incident. As Lear's assertions became more bold, his critics started to question his credibility. Some called him a whistleblower, others labeled him a conspiracy theorist, and still, others accused him of being a pawn in a much larger disinformation campaign orchestrated by the very government he was trying to expose. But as his critics mounted, so did his followers. Many believed that Lear, with his vast knowledge of aviation, CIA connections, and first-hand experiences, was telling the truth. The more outlandish his claims, the more curious people became. Could it be that Lear was revealing a secret that had been hidden for decades? Could it be that the truth was far more complicated and far more frightening than anyone had imagined? For those willing to entertain the idea, Lear's story became an intellectual puzzle that challenged everything they thought they knew about the world. As you continue to listen to Lear's theories, you begin to feel a sense of intellectual challenge rising within you. You've always prided yourself on being a critical thinker, someone who questions what they are told. But now, you're confronted with a situation that makes you question everything. Is Lear simply a man caught up in the world of conspiracy theories? Or is he revealing a truth that those in power don't want you to know? The question lingers in your mind, and you can't help but feel the weight of it. If it's true, if Lear's claims about secret deals with extraterrestrials are true, what does that mean for the world? For you, the intellectual challenge is real, and you can't ignore it. But the more you listen, the more a new feeling starts to take hold of you, a feeling of unease, of being deceived. Could it be that the government has been hiding the truth from you all along? What if everything you've been told about UFOs, aliens, and government transparency is a lie? The idea that you've been kept in the dark for so long is almost too much to bear. You begin to feel betrayed, like a part of your reality has been artificially constructed, meant to keep you calm and complacent, while something far darker unfolds behind closed doors. This is where the true power of Lear's story lies, not in the specifics of UFO sightings or alien technology, but in the emotions it stirs within you. As you digest his claims, you realize that they tap into a deeper fear, a fear that many people feel but are reluctant to express, the fear of being lied to, of being kept in the dark, of not knowing the truth. For older generations who have lived through the Cold War, and seen the rise of government secrecy. This fear is particularly poignant. Lear's story, in a way, mirrors the doubts that many have had about the integrity of those in power. The idea that there might be a secret agenda that we're all unaware of, well, it's a powerful notion, one that resonates with anyone who has ever questioned the official narrative. And so, you find yourself drawn deeper into the mystery. Lear's words echo in your mind, and you can't help but wonder, what if he's right? What if everything you've been told about UFOs and extraterrestrial life is just the tip of the iceberg? The thrill of the unknown pulls you in, and you realize that you've just begun to scratch the surface of a story that could change everything. By the end of the story, you may not have all the answers, but the questions linger, and that, perhaps, is the point. John Lear has done what few others could do. He's planted a seed of curiosity, a seed that will grow and continue to challenge your beliefs. As you look back on what you've learned, you realize that the journey is far from over. The truth, whatever it may be, is still out there. And now, you can't help but wonder, are you ready to keep searching? In the vast and often mysterious world of UFO sightings and government cover-ups, there is one name that stands out: John Lear. To some, he is a hero, a whistleblower who dared to reveal the truth about extraterrestrial encounters and government conspiracies. To others, he is simply a man lost in a web of wild theories and sensational claims. But regardless of what one believes, there's no denying that John Lear played a pivotal role in the UFO community, one that has left an indelible mark that continues to captivate, challenge, and provoke those who dare to explore the unexplained. John Lear's story begins like something out of a Hollywood movie. A man with connections, credibility, and access to information that most of us could only dream of. The son of William Lear, the inventor of the Learjet, John was already a prominent figure before he ever became involved with UFOs. As a seasoned pilot, having flown over 160 different types of aircraft across 50 countries, Lear's background was beyond reproach. His experience in the aviation industry was not only vast, but also trusted. This trust would later serve him well when he ventured into the murky waters of UFOs and government secrecy. In a world where truth is often stranger than fiction, Lear was about to step into a narrative that blurred the lines between reality and the bizarre. But what truly sets John Lear apart from other UFO enthusiasts is his unique position within the world of government agencies. Having flown missions for the CIA, Lear's reputation was cemented in the world of high-security intelligence. His credibility among the UFO community was bolstered by his undeniable access to confidential, classified information. He wasn't just another conspiracy theorist. He was someone who had been to the heart of the beast, a man who had seen the things most of us only hear about in whispers. Lear's involvement in UFO research was not an accidental diversion. It was a journey that began with an unshakable conviction. His path was paved after a conversation with United States Air Force personnel who had witnessed a UFO landing at Bentwaters Air Force Base in the United Kingdom. The idea that the U.S. government was hiding something much larger than what was being reported was enough to ignite Lear's curiosity. He had always been a man of science, a man who thrived on evidence and hard facts. But as he dug deeper into the world of UFOs, he found that the evidence he uncovered was both unsettling and mind-boggling. One of Lear's most shocking revelations was his claim about the existence of a secret U.S. government facility at Area 51, known as S4. According to Lear, this site was the home of reverse engineering projects where extraterrestrial technology was being studied, and where human beings were working alongside alien beings. But what was most chilling about Lear's claims was the idea that the U.S. government had not just encountered extraterrestrials, they had made deals with them. The very thought that the United States might be complicit in an alien alliance is enough to send a shiver down anyone's spine. Could it be true? Was the government truly hiding its dealings with otherworldly entities? For many, this was the point where Lear's reputation took a hit. The ideas he was presenting were just too outlandish to be taken seriously by mainstream society. The notion that the government had been working with extraterrestrials for decades, possibly since the 1940s, seemed too unbelievable to digest. And yet, for those who had heard about the UFO sightings, the cattle mutilations, and the strange incidents that defied explanation, Lear's claims began to sound less like fantasy and more like a disturbing reality. Lear's most controversial assertions involved his claims about the so-called Majestic 12, or MJ-12, a secret group of military and scientific personnel who, according to Lear, had been responsible for overseeing the government's dealings with extraterrestrials. MJ-12, Lear argued, was a group that controlled the flow of UFO-related information, preventing the public from knowing the full extent of the extraterrestrial presence on Earth. But even more shocking were Lear's allegations that the government had essentially sold out humanity to extraterrestrials, trading Earth's resources and possibly even human lives in exchange for advanced alien technology. As unbelievable as it may sound, Lear's claims of a government cover-up resonated with a growing community of believers, many of whom had their own stories to tell about strange encounters with UFOs or unusual phenomena. Lear's name became synonymous with the pursuit of truth, a man who was willing to speak out about the things that others were too afraid to acknowledge. In a time when information was tightly controlled and skepticism ran high, Lear's willingness to challenge the status quo was both admired and feared, but what truly made Lear's position so compelling was his personal connection to the government. Lear had not just heard about secret UFO programs from a distance, he had allegedly been part of the system that was actively investigating and suppressing the truth. His insider status gave him a unique perspective on the events he was describing. Lear wasn't just a man who had read about UFOs. He was a man who had flown missions for the CIA and had access to some of the most classified information in the world. The question on everyone's mind was, what had he seen? What had he learned? And more importantly, why was he telling the world about it now? As Lear's stories grew more sensational, so too did the number of people who questioned his motives. Was he truly a whistleblower trying to reveal the truth? Or was he a pawn in a much larger disinformation campaign, deliberately feeding the public wild tales to muddy the waters and prevent the real story from ever coming to light? The truth, as they say, is often stranger than fiction, and as Lear's narrative unfolded, it became harder to separate the truth from the myth. One thing that became increasingly clear was that Lear's influence in the UFO community was undeniable. He became a central figure, a voice that could not be ignored. His claims about extraterrestrial technology, government cover-ups, and secret agreements with alien races fueled the fires of curiosity in a way that few others could. As bizarre as his theories were, they served as a catalyst for deeper investigation, leading many to ask, what else is out there? And why is the government so determined to keep it a secret? For those who have spent years in the shadows of conspiracy theories, the name John Lear is more than just a man. It is a symbol of defiance, of someone who dared to ask the questions that others were too afraid to ask. Whether or not his claims are true, they have inspired generations of researchers, enthusiasts, and everyday people to think differently about the world around them. And for those who have dared to explore the rabbit hole of UFOs, John Lear remains a figure that will continue to challenge their beliefs and provoke their curiosity for years to come. So, as you ponder the strange and unsettling possibilities that Lear's story presents, ask yourself, is it all just a fabrication, or is there something deeper at play? Are we truly alone in the universe, or have we been part of a far-reaching conspiracy for decades? The answers may never be clear, but the questions will continue to haunt us, pushing us to dig deeper and search for the truth, no matter how unsettling it may be. And in that pursuit, one thing is certain: the mystery is far from over. In 1987, John Lear, the former CIA pilot and son of the inventor of the Lear jet, became a figurehead in the world of UFO conspiracy theories. His claims were as bold as they were controversial. UFOs were real, extraterrestrial beings were visiting Earth, and most shockingly, the US government had been in league with these beings for decades. His revelations were enough to send shockwaves through the UFO community. But as time went on, a troubling thought began to surface. What if Lear wasn't just revealing secrets, but was instead part of a disinformation campaign designed to mislead the public? For those who remember the Cold War era, the idea of government secrecy is nothing new. During the 50s and 60s, the US government went to great lengths to hide its true activities, whether it was covert military operations or sensitive scientific experiments. But as the UFO phenomena began to gather attention in the late 20th century, a new, more insidious possibility emerged. What if some of the most high-profile UFO enthusiasts were not truth-tellers, but instead unwitting pawns in a larger game of deception? John Lear's career, both as a commercial pilot and an investigator of UFOs, placed him in a unique position to access sensitive information. Over the years, Lear's connections within the aviation and intelligence communities allowed him to weave a narrative about extraterrestrials and secret government projects that seemed plausible, even when it was entirely unfounded. His revelations, however, started to take a dark turn when Lear began to speak more openly about the idea that the government had engaged in not only covering up UFOs, but actively hiding their existence for strategic reasons. The question arises: could Lear have been used by the government in a larger disinformation effort? Many would argue that this is precisely what happened. Throughout his career, Lear came into contact with a variety of sources, some within the government, who fed him information. Lear himself even admitted that he was uncertain whether the details he was provided were entirely truthful. This raises the chilling possibility that Lear was being manipulated, fed half-truths and misleading information with the express purpose of muddying the waters. By doing so, the government could allow certain truths to leak out while ensuring that the more extreme, less credible claims overshadowed the verifiable facts. This sense of being deceived is palpable, especially for those who have followed Lear's statements over the years. For decades, Lear had built a reputation as a maverick truth-teller in the UFO community. His bold assertions about secret government projects like Area 51 and Majestic 12 earned him respect from those who believed in UFOs. But then, as his claims grew increasingly bizarre, ranging from lunar bases to mind control experiments, many of his followers began to question whether Lear's information was coming from genuine sources, or whether he was simply echoing disinformation put forward by shadowy government agencies. To consider Lear as part of a disinformation campaign might seem too far-fetched for some, but it's a theory that deserves scrutiny. If the US government wanted to control the narrative around UFOs, what better way than to allow a well-known figure like Lear to spread outlandish theories? The more outrageous the claims, the easier it becomes to discredit the legitimate information. If a person like Lear, with a seemingly impeccable background, could fall prey to such manipulation, what does that say about the rest of us? Could it be that, without even realizing it, we have all been part of a carefully orchestrated psychological operation designed to control public perception of UFOs and extraterrestrial life? This is the unsettling thought that should grip anyone who has ever believed in the so-called truths that Lear shared. What if everything we've been told, or everything we think we know, is part of a grand ruse? It's not hard to imagine how this realization could spark fear, confusion, and a sense of betrayal. For many people, the idea that the government has been withholding crucial information about extraterrestrial life for decades is an unsettling one. But the thought that some of the very people who have been sharing these revelations might themselves be part of a carefully constructed lie is downright terrifying. Consider this: the government's ability to manipulate public opinion is not a new concept. Over the years, various agencies have used propaganda, controlled leaks, and other methods to shape how the public perceives information. In the case of UFOs, the stakes are high. If the existence of extraterrestrials were to be confirmed, it would change everything: our understanding of the universe, our place in it, and, perhaps, our sense of security. The government, perhaps rightly, feared that such a revelation would cause mass panic, disrupt societal order, and throw the global balance of power into chaos. So, what better way to manage such a potentially world-altering discovery than to control the flow of information and direct the public's attention to less credible sources? For those who have followed UFO stories closely, the idea that John Lear might have been part of a disinformation effort is a bitter pill to swallow. Lear, after all, was one of the most prominent voices in the UFO community. His theories, while outlandish to some, were compelling to others. But the more we learn about the ways in which the government controls the narrative around sensitive issues, the more we must consider the possibility that Lear, like many before him, may have been just another pawn in a much larger game. For older Americans, especially those who remember the days when UFOs were first captured in the public imagination, this realization may stir up feelings of betrayal. It's hard to shake the idea that we've been lied to for so long, and even harder to accept the possibility that those who presented themselves as truth-tellers were merely contributing to the cover-up. The idea that the government might use individuals like Lear to propagate false information is deeply unsettling, especially for those who grew up trusting the institutions that are supposed to protect and inform the public. But here's the crux of the issue. This isn't just about UFOs or extraterrestrials. It's about trust in our leaders, in the media, and in the very systems that are supposed to inform us. If Lear was part of a disinformation campaign, it speaks to a much larger issue. How easily can the public be manipulated when the truth is hidden behind layers of deception? And how far are we willing to go to uncover the truth, even when it seems like the odds are stacked against us? As we reflect on Lear's role in this tangled web of secrecy and manipulation, we must ask ourselves whether we can continue to trust the sources of information we rely on. If Lear, with all his connections and experience, was misled, then who else might be? The challenge now is not just to uncover the truth about UFOs, but to develop the critical thinking skills necessary to sift through the noise and separate fact from fiction. The journey for truth is never easy, but it's a journey worth taking. After all, if we don't question the narrative, who will? So, as we dive deeper into this conspiracy, we must remain vigilant, questioning everything and trusting nothing until we have all the pieces of the puzzle. The truth is out there if we're brave enough to find it. In the world of UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomena, there is one name that still evokes curiosity, suspicion, and even fear: Majestic 12, or MJ-12. This covert group, allegedly composed of the highest-ranking officials in the U.S. government, is said to have overseen the nation's dealings with extraterrestrials for decades. The mere mention of MJ-12 sparks a whirlwind of emotions: dread, disbelief, and above all, an insatiable desire to know the truth. For those who grew up in a time when the government was trusted to be the ultimate authority, learning about MJ-12 can be a chilling revelation. It challenges everything we've been told about what is real and what isn't. Imagine for a moment a time long before the modern-day UFO sightings and extraterrestrial disclosures we are witnessing now. A time when the concept of UFOs was confined to science fiction books and the occasional blurry photograph. But behind closed doors, in the deepest recesses of the U.S. government, a secret group known as MJ-12 was quietly making decisions that would shape humanity's future and perhaps even determine our survival. Majestic 12 allegedly came into existence shortly after the infamous 1947 Roswell crash, where a UFO reportedly crashed in New Mexico. The government's response to the incident was swift and secretive, and according to numerous reports, a special task force was established to manage all information related to UFOs. This task force, later known as MJ-12, is said to have had access to classified materials that could prove the existence of extraterrestrial life. But the question remains, why was this information hidden from the public for so long? It's a question that has haunted conspiracy theorists and UFO enthusiasts for decades. The secrecy surrounding MJ-12 runs so deep that some even believe the group continues to operate today, its influence stretching far beyond the U.S. government and into the global arena. As the years have gone by, more and more documents have emerged, some claiming to be leaked government files that support the existence of MJ-12. But the more we learn, the more we are left with unanswered questions and a growing sense of unease. The idea that the U.S. government has been hiding the truth about UFOs and extraterrestrials for over 70 years is enough to unsettle anyone. For older generations who lived through the Cold War and trusted in the government's authority, this revelation is especially jarring. It calls into question everything from the moon landing to the true nature of military operations. What if our leaders, the very people we trusted to keep us safe, have been hiding something as monumental as extraterrestrial life? The thought alone is enough to send chills down anyone's spine. What makes the story of MJ-12 even more unsettling is the potential betrayal of the American public. Imagine learning that your government, the institution you've trusted for your entire life, has been hiding crucial information not just about UFOs, but about extraterrestrial life forms that could very well be living among us, or have been for decades. The idea that they have known about these beings, and perhaps even made deals with them, without ever informing the public, is enough to evoke a deep sense of betrayal. The secrecy surrounding MJ-12 isn't just about hiding the truth from the public, it's also about controlling the narrative. By keeping information hidden, the government has maintained control over what the public knows and believes about extraterrestrials. It is a manipulation of the highest order, and as more details leak out, the public's trust in these institutions continues to erode. For those who have lived through decades of government promises and reassurances, the realization that they may have been kept in the dark about something as profound as extraterrestrial life is a bitter pill to swallow, but there's another, more unsettling layer to this story, one that involves not just hidden documents and covert meetings, but the lives of everyday people. According to some reports, MJ-12 was not only responsible for covering up the existence of extraterrestrials, but also for dealing with the consequences of their interactions with these beings. Some claim that the group was involved in the management of UFO crashes, the retrieval of alien technology, and even the handling of extraterrestrial beings themselves. The thought that these beings were not only real, but also being studied and possibly even experimented on by the government is a chilling one. And as if that weren't enough, there are rumors that MJ-12 was involved in making deals with extraterrestrials, agreeing to exchange certain technologies in exchange for silence on the subject of abductions and mutilations. The possibility that this secret agreement, made in the shadowy corridors of power, could have led to further exploitation of the human population is a horrifying thought. The idea that people were abducted, experimented on, and manipulated without their consent or knowledge is enough to evoke a sense of profound fear and distrust. It's easy to dismiss these claims as the stuff of science fiction or wild conspiracy theories. After all, the government has repeatedly denied any involvement with UFOs or extraterrestrial beings. But as more and more documents and testimonies surface, the question becomes harder to ignore. What if they are hiding something? What if MJ-12 is real and the government has been lying to us all these years? The more you think about it, the more it begins to feel like a story that is too big to be ignored, a story that demands to be uncovered, no matter the consequences for many people especially older generations who remember a time when trust in the government was at its highest. The idea of MJ-12 forces a painful reevaluation of what we've been told. It's as if a veil has been lifted, revealing a truth that's far darker and more complex than anyone could have imagined. And yet, even with all the evidence, there is still a sense of uncertainty. Are we really ready to face the truth? And if we are, what do we do with it once it's out in the open? This is where things get even more complicated. If MJ-12 exists, and if they've been in control of extraterrestrial information for all these years, what does that mean for the future? Are we heading toward a world where the truth about UFOs and extraterrestrials will finally be revealed? Or are we trapped in a never-ending cycle of cover-ups and half-truths? The anticipation is palpable. Each new piece of evidence that surfaces only adds to the mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. But one thing is certain: the story of MJ-12 is far from over. And as long as there are those willing to dig into the mystery, to question what we've been told, the truth will eventually come to light, no matter how unsettling it may be. For now, the only thing we can do is continue searching for answers. As more information comes to light, the story of MJ-12 will continue to unfold. Whether or not the truth will ever be fully revealed is still unclear. But one thing is certain: the search for the truth will continue, and the questions raised by MJ-12 will keep us wondering, waiting, and watching. And in that sense, the story is just beginning. If you feel the urge to uncover more, if you want to delve deeper into the mystery of MJ-12 and the extraterrestrial cover-up, now is the time to take action. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and stay informed. Because the truth, whether we like it or not, is out there, and it may just change everything we thought we knew about our world. Thank you so much for watching my video. This video has 2 parts, and I hope you'll stay tuned for the next part. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next part. I truly appreciate your support and hope to see you in the next video.